Okay, this lesson for the Koine Project Class entitled Like Darby, Like R.C. Sproul. I'm informed that his name is pronounced just like the word soul, and that is the late R.C. Sproul. And you remember he became or received notoriety. Some people might say notorious or infamous for popularizing regeneration precedes faith. Now he was careful to say not temporally. Rather, he did say yes, logically. Now you'll notice a lot of people who want to argue try to use the language, and we learned that no form of genao, no form. So no form adverbially, for example, as ado. You remember ado, which was in the form adotes in Galatians 2:16. It was that perfect active participle as ones who, having noticed, were always noticing. You remember in that text that no kind of man is being justified out from any kind of works of any kind of law except through faithfulness of Jesus Christ. Even we ourselves believed. So there was pisteuo, and that was aorist form, by the way. Aorist tense, simple form of action. And he said into Jesus, ace, into Jesus, in order that we might be declared right. So we have a verb, ado, like the word idea in English and the word video in Latin, ado, it's personal acquaintance, insight, it's an insight word. So we noticed there was no form anywhere exist, and certainly not, let me put D here, certainly not any form prior to the finite verb believe, the finite verb form of pisteuo. You remember the closest we came to, I'll just stop right there. Yeah. The closest we came to, and we'll just end here, we had that, therefore, 1 John 5:1 was the best attempt, and it is prior to a present active participle, pisteuon, which in one of the videos I left out the epsilon, and some of you let me know about it. I really like that, though, because someone corrected me when I'd say logos. They say, no, it's logos. And I was thankful they did that, because if they're that concerned and that precise that even the pronunciation, which I don't know how they know which one it is. But anyway, that's good, because it invites the privilege to let's all be that precise. But usually it's not really with anything of any importance. So therefore, the closest we came. So what did we learn was that what R.C. Sproul did that was such a big deal, he just simply moved an output to the input position. And we noticed that it caused quite a catalysis, a huge reaction for him to just move. So here, let's write R.C. Sproul, as I'm told. He moved that over here, and he put regeneration prior to faith. So that's it. Now let's go to Darby for a moment. And what he did was say rapture precedes return. Now you notice it's just like that. Now, I haven't read what he said, but we know it's not temporally. That is, the text doesn't say it, because we also know that it would have to be yes only logically prior, and that was based on, you remember, we'll just put number one here, implicit interpretation or extrapolation. So we noticed, so it wasn't temporally. We also noticed that the word preposition seen, that's preposition, and then ama was an adverb there. And this preposition equaled together with, and this adverb translates into simultaneously. There we go, simultaneously. So in 1 Thessalonians 4:17, Paul said, when Christ returns, the dead in Christ shall be raised first, then we which are alive, the ones who are remaining around. It literally has the word around, peri, as in perimeter, perimeter. So he said the ones who are remaining around will be simultaneously seized away together with them. And that verb that's often said rapture, which harpazo is verb, and it's seized away simultaneously together with them. Well, you remember what we learned, some of you remember when we were studying the adjective hagios. Check that out. I can't remember if that's the adjectival form. So, but we know it's an adjective when it's, Jesus said, when he returns with his holy angels. And we noticed in letters, in the church letters, for example, the two different places, I think Jude and Thessalonians, it spoke of holy ones. Yeah, in Jude, but it says saints. But when you look that word up, those of you who use your King James Bible, you look it up, you notice the noun's not there. This is blank. And then in Thessalonians, the same thing. This is not there. But now we have it where Jesus said it. So Jesus said holy ones. Well, he already gave us the noun. Angels. So when you say, well, that proves you can't trust your King. Oh, yeah, you could trust your King James Bible if you went back and noticed what Jesus said in the phrase there, the holy angels. So when it returns, but here's something as a social scientist, and that I admit I am that, and I'm trained in multivariate backgrounds and deliberately study these things, especially in light of what happened that made such a catalysis. I mean, it was like, it just gets all kinds of reactions from people, just sometimes vitriolic. And then, of course, if you like that, that's your side, but it's a huge reaction. But I noticed that some people are really hard on R.C. Sproul for placing regeneration ahead of faith, but we have a blind spot when it comes to this, because a lot of us teach pre-trib rapture. Now that's the secret, invisible, sees away. But that really wouldn't work if it wasn't for Darby moving or being the one to make it popular. So now Darby, I don't know his name. I just barely remember his last name. I only had this because sometimes, well, what you might get is you might get someone who likes both of these. I mean, there are people who are, like John MacArthur, for example. I'll just do that. John MacArthur likes this and this, you see. So John MacArthur would be plus, plus, positive, positive. And then let's say, I don't know. Other people might be, let's say, this and then, because a lot of Reformed folks frown on the rapture. So I'll just write Reformed folks or just Reformed. How about that? And then there are people who are, I'll just say Calvinist. I don't have another word for it. Calvinist, who might like, who would be more likely like this, but they might this or, the Calvinists, they take up a lot of space and everything. So they might be this and this, similar to John MacArthur, because I'm not sure anymore. He's really strong Reformed with R.C. Sproul, formerly a great friend of his, but he's also this. So I'm not sure, but it looks like if you're really against R.C. Sproul, who popularized regeneration precedes faith, if it wasn't for our own awareness of our own cognitive and affective biases, like, for example, as a social scientist, this is an intriguing study for me to notice how someone can be so against or so determined to correct this and show the errors of this while holding to this. Now, I don't mean that the consequences are equal. I was simply stating that there's a lot, sometimes we can have energy to negate something that is simply someone like R.C. Sproul moving an output to an input, moving something out of order. And that's all we really have is what Darby did. And that's really that simple. Now, in a language class like this, you can study this out. You have no investment. You have to give up your pre-understanding, not because you are big enough to do it, but when you actually start going through the text and using the words and acknowledging the inflectional morphemes, the kind of action, the root words, and you notice prepositions and adverbs, and you notice how that it works toward the finite verb, like finding ado in a causal participial form in relationship to pistuo, the finite verb. Well, we have a place where we have a causal participle in relationship to the finite verb, and that's ado. That's why even in Jesus' life, he said, apocalypto, thanked his Father that he did not apocalypto, reveal these things to the wise and prudent, but to babes. And we have gnosko, knowledge, ado, personal insight and acquaintance. Notice a sight word like this. And then we have apocalypto. So we have three verbs there, apocalypto, gnosko, and ado. And thus far, and I'm working on this now, is ado the result of apocalypto leading to gnosko, which then leads to ado. So that's what I'm working on, and we'll talk about that in another lesson. But notice here how you won't find consistency very often. And matter of fact, I didn't place the other option here. So, of course, if you study, you don't have time for emotion. You might say, well, now I've studied, and this would be the Koine class, Koine Project Class. That's why I said you won't be. Now, you don't have to worry about persecution. You won't be around anyone that has a lot to say about the Bible anyway, anywhere. It's really not anything people discuss. Sometimes after a calamity, we can move in and seize the moment. For example, funerals, weddings, births of children, new events in someone's life where they're transitioning a major life event, school, moving away from home, or returning. And they want us, so we can talk then. And of course, in the services, in the ecclesia, we can preach and admonish, exhort. But that's it. That's a good lesson. It's something you all have noticed already, but you can see these options of how people can respond to this, where some might take this move of R.C. Sproul and accept it, positive. And John MacArthur would be one of the rare ones here. He accepts this one and that one. And then, but there's a lot of Reformed who accept R.C. Sproul, but then will reject Darby. So have a blessed day and enjoy this novel observation. It's just things that kind of come out incidentally to what we're doing.